America has a strong presence of black people, but have you ever wondered how they are distributed across the states? You might not even know which state your favorite black person calls home. Well, you're in the right place because this video will provide educational and entertaining insights about where the black population in the U.S. is concentrated. There's no denying the massive contributions African Americans have made to modern America, as they occupy many positions of power, driving change and improving their communities. Their culture and influence can be seen everywhere. So today we're looking at the top 10 blackest states in the U.S., along with some cultural and historical background. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future content. Ready to be surprised? Let's get started with our list. 10. Tennessee. Even though Tennessee comes in last on our list, the state still has a significant black population compared to many other places. To put things into perspective, the whitest state in America, Montana, has a black population of only about 0.7%, while Tennessee has 16.7%. Out of Tennessee's 95 counties, 19 have African American populations that exceed 10%, with most of the black residents living in the western part of the state. In Shelby County, for instance, African Americans make up 52.1% of the population, while in Haywood County, they account for 50.4%. Memphis is a particularly vibrant city for African Americans, with over 400,000 black residents, making it one of the largest African American population centers in the U.S. Memphis is rich in African American culture and continues to play an essential role in the state's black history. Tennessee's history with its African American population is deeply tied to the legacy of slavery, which lasted until the Civil War ended in 1865. The state's 1834 Constitution supported slavery, and efforts were made to drive out freed black residents while encouraging European immigrants. Despite these challenges, a determined group of free African Americans remained in the state, facing violence and discrimination after slavery ended. Tennessee was also home to early black political leaders, with many African Americans participating in the state legislature after the 15th Amendment granted them the right to vote. Today, African Americans make up about 13.3% of Tennessee's legislature. 9. Virginia. This is where African Americans are the largest racial minority group. The 2020 census revealed that 18.8% of Virginia's population is black. Virginia is historically significant as it was the entry point for Africans brought to America in 1619. Over time, Virginia's black population has decreased slightly, but it remains a state with a rich African American heritage. Cities like Petersburg, Emporia, and Franklin have high black populations, with Petersburg standing out at around 75% black. Virginia Beach, the state's largest city, has a black population of 20%. Virginia also played a major role in the civil rights movement, especially in the landmark Brown v. Board of Education case, which helped end racial segregation in public schools. The state is also home to Hampton University, one of the oldest historically black colleges in the country. Notable black figures from Virginia include tap dancer Bilbo Jangles, Robinson, tennis legend Arthur Ashe, and R&B singer Chris Brown. 8. North Carolina. It is where African Americans make up about 22% of the population. Slavery was introduced in the state during the late 1600s and early 1700s, and racial segregation remained deeply entrenched for many years. Despite this, North Carolina has a vibrant African American culture. Fayetteville is home to about 200,000 residents, 42% of whom are black. Other cities with significant black populations include Kinston, Rocky Mount, and Wilson, with Kinston leading at 65% black. Durham, known for its Black Wall Street, was a center of African American business and entrepreneurship in the early 20th century. Notable black historical figures from North Carolina include Harriet Jacobs, a former slave and author from Edenton, and TV personality Star Jones. Additionally, North Carolina has a strong online presence through its Black Twitter community, where African Americans create tight-knit online networks, celebrating and supporting each other in unique ways. 7. Delaware. In Delaware, 21.3% of the population is African American. The state's black population has grown by 10% over the past decade, with much of this growth concentrated in cities like Wilmington and Dover. Wilmington is home to 57% black residents, while Dover's population is 40% black. Delaware State University, a historically black university, is a key institution for the black middle class in the state. Delaware's black history dates back to its involvement in the Civil War, when it was a border state that saw conflict over the issue of slavery. Even though the state was part of the Union, slavery was not fully abolished in Delaware until the ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865. During the Great Depression, black Americans in Delaware faced extreme hardship, with many struggling to find employment or relying on work relief programs. Wilmington experienced major demographic shifts during the Civil Rights era, and by 1970, black residents made up 40% of the city's population. The city elected its first black black mayor, James Sills, in 1993. Famous black Americans from Delaware include NBA players A.J. English and Stevie Graham, as well as Franklin from Charlie Brown. However, Delaware also faces challenges, as it has one of the highest black homicide rates in the U.S. At number 6 is Alabama, where 25.8% of the population is African American. Alabama's black population has a long and storied history, from slavery to the civil rights movement and beyond. The state's rich black heritage is reflected in cities like Tuskegee, which has a 95% black population, the highest in the state. Alabama was also home to the first black-owned bank in the U.S., the Penny Savings Bank, founded by William Pettiford in 1890. Historically, black colleges, such as the Lincoln Normal School, established in 1867, played a crucial role in providing education for African Americans during Reconstruction. Alabama was a major battleground during the civil rights movement, with key events like the Montgomery bus boycott and leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. shaping the fight for equality. At number 5 is South Carolina, where 27% of the population identifies as black. However, this is actually a decrease of 4.7% from the previous decade, making South Carolina one of only 2 states on this list to see a decline in its black population percentage. Despite this, South Carolina has a rich African American history that is deeply tied to the state's complex past. Before the abolition of slavery, the free black population in South Carolina never exceeded 2%. Today, Marion takes the lead as the state's blackest city, with an impressive 78% of its population identifying as African American, while the capital city of Columbia boasts a 40% black population. South Carolina also has a notable presence of black politicians. Around 22% of the state's legislature is made up of African Americans, and there have been several historic elections in recent years. For instance, in 2014, Tim Scott became the first African American U.S. Senator from South Carolina since the Reconstruction era. In the local political scene, Stephen K. Benjamin became mayor of Columbia in 2010, marking a significant moment for the city. Other notable figures include Terrence Roberts, who was elected as mayor of Anderson in 2006, and Barbara Blaine Bellamy, who broke barriers as Conway's first African American female mayor in 2015. Currently, South Carolina's General Assembly is made up of 172 members, 44 of whom are African American, which represents about 26% of the group. Coming in at number 4 is Maryland. The state's black population stands at nearly 29.3%, with Baltimore acting as the cultural and historical heart of the African American community. In Baltimore, 65% of residents identify as black, making it one of the most significant black cities in the country. Other areas with large black populations include District Heights and Glenarden. In District Heights, for instance, a staggering 86% of the population identifies as African American, further contributing to Maryland's rich black culture. Maryland's African American history stretches back to the state's founding. Although Maryland wasn't officially labeled as a slave state in its early days, by 1642, enslaved Africans were being brought into the colony, and by 1694, slavery had become an entrenched part of life there. Over time, Maryland became a center of civil rights activism and progress. Notable figures such as Harriet Tubman, who was born in Dorchester County, played pivotal roles in fighting for freedom and equality. Other prominent African Americans from Maryland include civil rights lawyer Thurgood Marshall, who became the first black Supreme Court justice. The state's black innovators have also made major contributions to American culture, with Garrett Morgan inventing the traffic light in 1923 and Lonnie Johnson creating the Super Soaker, a beloved summertime toy. Maryland's black population continues to thrive, with notable figures in politics, business, sports, and entertainment emerging from the state. The state's history of black education is also significant, as it is home to several historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, including Morgan State University and Bowie State University. These institutions have played crucial roles in empowering African Americans and fostering the next generation of leaders. At number 3, we have Georgia, where African Americans make up 31.2% of the population. Georgia is home to the second largest African American population in the country, right after Texas. The state has a deeply rooted Gullah community, with rich traditions and heritage that have been passed down through generations. The Gullah people are descendants of enslaved Africans who were brought to the coastal areas of Georgia and South Carolina. Their unique culture, language, and practices have had a lasting impact on the state's African American community. The African American population in Georgia is spread throughout the state, with cities like Union City, a suburb of Atlanta, having the highest black population at 86%. Savannah, a historic city on the coast, has a black population of 56%. In recent years, Atlanta's black population has started to spread into the surrounding suburbs, with the city itself now at 54% black, down from 61% a decade ago. Historically, Georgia's population was half black until the Civil War era, when many African American families left the rural South for better opportunities in the North during the Great Migration. Atlanta has a special place in civil rights history, as it is the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., one of the most influential leaders in American history. Since 1973, the city of Atlanta has continuously elected black mayors, including prominent national figures like Andrew Young and Maynard Jackson. The election of Jackson, in particular, marked a turning point in black political power in Georgia as he received support from the state's predominantly white business community. Leaders from Coca-Cola, Citizens and Southern National Bank, hoped for a partnership between the downtown area and City Hall. But Jackson took it a step further by promoting minority-owned businesses and neighborhood organizations. The state of Georgia has also produced influential black cultural figures, including entertainers and athletes. With a strong African-American presence and a rich history of civil rights activism, Georgia is a powerhouse when it comes to black political and cultural influence in the U.S. Next, at number 2, is Louisiana, which has the 5th largest black population in the country. African Americans make up 32% of Louisiana's population, which is a significant 7% increase over the last decade. This growth adds nearly 880,000 more black Americans to Louisiana's population than a decade ago. Cities like Bastrop, near Monroe, and Baker, near Baton Rouge, have some of the highest concentrations of black residents, with around 80% of their populations being African American. New Orleans also stands out, with 60% of its population identifying as black, giving it the 7th highest black population among large U.S. cities. Louisiana's African American community has deep historical roots, with enslaved Africans brought to the region in the early 18th century. New Orleans became a center of African American culture, particularly through its contributions to music, notably jazz, which originated in the city's black communities. Today, Louisiana remains a hub for African American culture, with its distinctive Creole and Cajun influences shaping the state's unique blend of traditions, food, music, and arts. Louisiana's civil rights history is also profound, with major figures like Homer Plessy, whose case led to the infamous Plessy versus Ferguson decision, which upheld racial segregation laws. Despite this legacy of struggle, African Americans in Louisiana have made significant strides, particularly in politics, where they have become increasingly active in shaping the state's future. This brings us to the final state on the list. Number 1, Mississippi. Mississippi has the highest percentage of African Americans in the U.S., with 37.8% of its population identifying as black. Mississippi's black population played a central role in the state's history, particularly during the 1830s when the state saw a large influx of enslaved people. At one point, African Americans made up the majority of the state's population, a situation that continued until the early 20th century. The Great Migration saw nearly 400,000 African Americans leave Mississippi, seeking better opportunities in the North and beyond. Today, the city of Jackson stands out with an impressive 80% black population, placing it second only to Detroit in terms of the highest concentration of African Americans in any U.S. city. In addition to Jackson, Mississippi has 10 cities with more than 5,000 residents where 70% or more are African American. Despite these numbers, Mississippi faces ongoing challenges in terms of racial equality, with about 16% of the state's African American voting age population being disenfranchised due to felony convictions. This highlights the continuing struggle for justice and equality in the state. Mississippi's rich African American history is deeply intertwined with the civil rights movement, with key events like the Freedom Summer and figures like Medgar Evers playing crucial roles in the fight for equality. The state's history of African American resistance, creativity, and perseverance continues to inspire generations today. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.